Hello, everybody. How are you? No. That's not terribly convincing. How are you? Yeah. Of course, with 460 people in here, there are going to be a number of you who actually aren't feeling good. In fact, statistically, about 26 of you will be suffering from a common cold, about 46 from some sort of injury, but perhaps you're suffering from something which can't simply be sorted out by a visit to the hospital or to the pharmacy. About 70 of us in here will be suffering from some sort of emotional or mental health issue right now. I wonder if you're one of them. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my family. Happy and privileged. Friends would tell you we're almost boring in our conventional good fortune. My wife, Sheena, produced, with a little help from me, 4 boys. The oldest now 31, the youngest now 23. Each of them enjoyed routine challenges, dodgy cars, dodgy women, but generally life has been exceptionally kind to them. They went to schools where teachers cared and opportunities were almost infinite, and they went to decent universities too, which no doubt housed, somewhere, well-meaning student support services. 2 of the boys met their university tutors on a couple of occasions. 3 out of 4 of the boys took the ups and downs of life in their stride, coping with the sort of slings and arrows of growing up rather better than their father did. But Barney, our 3rd son, well, Barney was slightly different. He'd always been a gentle guy, keen on cooking and on sport, with apparently a cool taste in clothes and music. He was really popular. His friends called him the gnome, always there, smiling, but never saying very much. He was a cracking and a lovely boy. He had a lovely sense of humour too, but he lacked the confidence ever to feel really at ease in a group of people. Doing this would have killed him. So he lacked the confidence even amongst friends. But then he found the lovely Lara. With Lara, Barney could somehow relax, be himself, and enjoy life. In time, he began to save up for an engagement ring. But in early August 2011, Barney's relationship with Lara came to an end, just as thousands of relationships come to an end every day. But instead of wallowing in his anguish, his grief for a week or two, and then getting on with life, Barney embarked on a single-minded campaign to win her back. During August, Barney wrote, emailed, texted, and called, all to no avail. And as his campaign became more desperate, so his mood became darker and his behavior more obsessive. At the end of August, he even remarked, somewhat melodramatically, that life without Lara wasn't worth living. In the early days of September, Barney was adjudged to be at risk to himself and was sectioned, that is, involuntarily detained under the terms of the Mental Health Act. But Barney was nothing if not stubborn and persuasive, and he soon convinced his psychiatric assessment team that actually his threats to kill himself were nothing short of being manipulative. The section was lifted, Barney came home. Monday, the 12th of September, was a soft, late summer's day, and Barney told us he was leaving. As he sat in his little red car, I handed him a letter which told him simply how much we loved him, that we'd always be there for him, and that above all, he should keep himself safe. As I passed it through the window of his car, he just brushed it very gently aside, and it fell to the ground unread. Without fuss, he drove away. A week later, Monday, the 19th of September, 2 police officers arrived at the school at which my wife and I worked. They told us gently and sensitively that Barney had been found in a hotel room and that he had quietly taken his own life. Barney Barney had planned his departure from his cruel world down to the smallest detail, sending a delayed text to the ambulance service asking them to find him before the hospital cleaning staff arrived to service his room. He was a boy who very much knew his own mind. His death was not impulsive, nor was it impetuous. It was calm and it was calculated, both brave and selfish. As you will imagine, we were consumed by waves of grief for the days and weeks afterwards, waves which crashed over us and left us gasping for breath, not really knowing which way was up. But here's the remarkable thing. As that tide of heartbreak slowly receded, so it became clear that Barney's death was going to illuminate some very strange silver linings. The innate kindness of people, the hugs exchanged between Barney's brothers, the willingness of friends to talk and to listen. So, why did Barney kill himself? Because he was dumped by his girlfriend? No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. Whilst the end of Barney's relationship may have been a significant trigger, a final straw, I don't believe it was the underlying cause. Suicide is a complex event, and no two cases are the same. Well, was he mentally ill then? Well, the man and woman in the street wouldn't have thought so, just as they wouldn't have thought that Robin Williams was mentally ill. Barney was just depressed. He should have pulled himself together and sorted himself out. I wonder if there's anyone in here who's diabetic. Well, actually, you should sort yourself out too. Pull yourself together. Just as diabetes is a disorder of the pancreas, so depression is a disorder of the mind which affects feeling, mood, and daily functioning. Neither condition is something one can simply get over purely at will. Neither is a lifestyle choice. Mental ill health can be triggered by any number of factors or a cumulative collection of such factors, but the reason why some of us cope and others don't lies further upstream in that heady cocktail of nature and nurture that makes us uniquely us. Barney killed himself because he was not equipped to cope with the storms of life. I don't blame anybody, but somehow together we failed to provide him with the tools to bounce back from adversity. And Barney was not alone in finding it hard to cope, far, far from it. We're increasingly driven by technological immediacy and by high-octane expectations, focusing more and more on short-term goals in government, in the workplace, in our schools and colleges and universities, even in our homes and our families. We seem to have become obsessed with measurement, with hard evidence, with quantitative data. The treadmill of life gathers pace. Get those grades, meet that deadline, respond to that email, apply for that job, perform better, look better, be better. Young people are under more pressure than ever before, with social media serving to ratchet up that pressure at every turn. And young people themselves are falling into the trap. How many likes or shares or retweets, somehow becoming for some a measure of self-worth. And the outcome for many young people is emotional turmoil. Between 10 and 20% of teenagers in the Western world resort to self-harm, self-injury in an attempt to alleviate their emotional pain. In the UK, the World Health Organization suggests that there has been a 300% increase in self-harm in the last 10 years. So I asked an eminent psychiatrist why this was. What was the appeal in self-harming? It seems so strange. And he asked me what I feel like when I've worked out in the gym for an hour. Me. But nonetheless, I said that I would feel exhausted, obviously, calm, relaxed, tired, and even slightly virtuous. Yes, he said, why is that? And I said, well, I think it's something to do with endorphins. And he said, exactly right. If you were to work out in the gym for an hour, you would release a large number of endorphins, and they would lead to the feelings that you describe. If you were to hurt yourself intentionally, you are liable to release a similar number of endorphins instantly. So, one way of looking at it is that self-harm works. It is one way of easing the pressure, of letting off the steam that can otherwise build and build and build. It is one way, arguably, of staying alive. But why haven't we explained to young people that there are so many better ways of relieving emotional pain that will not leave you scarred or disfigured or in physical pain? Personally, when I'm feeling emotionally vulnerable or wobbly, I have a damn good cry. It works, it really does. And I'm a bloke. How weird is that? Barney was not alone in suffering from mental ill health. He killed himself because he couldn't cope with the storms of life. Self-harm, similarly, helps you cope with the storms of life, but we need to teach young people a better way of doing that. And did you know that while suicide is the greatest single cause of death in young men aged 17 to 35 in the UK, it also accounts for more deaths in that age group than AIDS, violent crime, and astonishingly, road traffic accidents all added together. That is scandalous. Absolutely scandalous. So, life can be tough, can't it? There won't be a single person in here who hasn't experienced the discomfort or even the agony of emotional pain. Every one of us has experienced worry and anxiety, some of us right now today, and stress. All of us. And in fact, we couldn't do without them. However, at what point does that worry and anxiety and stress become destructive? It is part of living. I see life in three parts. Over there are all the cool things of life, the love, the laughter, the smiles, the parties, the success, the A grades, the first-class degrees, the happy relations, everything that's cool, and I hope you all enjoy a really large amount of that. In the middle, you've got ordinary. Getting up, working, sleeping, eating, drinking, going to bed, learning, growing, developing, all the things we do without really thinking. But it's over there, on the horizon. That's where the storms of life lurk. Storms that come rolling in every so often. If we're lucky, we find out that it's only a squall. Uncomfortable, but hey, we can see the sun coming out again and we'll be all right in a minute. Some of us have experienced storms that are a little bit more tempestuous. They can hurt. And some people in here will have experienced a hurricane, a force of such power and pain that you don't know how long it's going to last or even whether you're going to get through it at all. Now, how well we prepare our young people to cope with those emotional storms of life, to recognize and regulate their emotions, will determine how resilient they will become and how well they will be able to interact with the world. But that's a task that we are sadly neglecting. That is particularly frustrating, as neuroscience has shown us quite clearly that resilience is learnable and it is teachable. So what are we doing about it? Well, the New Economics Foundation in 2008 offered 5 ways to well-being. We can all, the research suggested, help young people to stay connected, and not just through social media, by noticing the world around them, by being physically active, by understanding the immense therapeutic value of a random act of kindness, and by continuing to engage with new things, new experiences, new ideas. But the burgeoning epidemic of emotional and mental health in young people means that's not enough. We've got to do more. We require a fundamental change in attitude, a societal shift in approach. And because schools and colleges and universities should shape the society to which we aspire, they must lead the way. In 2006, Ken Robinson, some of you may have heard his talk, said that education had mined our minds in the same way that we have strip mined the earth for a particular commodity. And for the future, he said, it won't serve us. He called for us to re-examine the fundamental principles of education. As yet, we haven't heeded his call. We must do so. We need a root and branch review, asking what or for whom we're teaching our children. We need to explore what we're teaching, how we're teaching, and how we're assessing at every level. Studies from around the world have suggested that prioritizing emotional and mental health will have a direct and positive impact on academic performance. We need to embed social and emotional learning in all educational institutions. It needs to become an integral part of what every single teacher of every single subject says, does, and is, rather than being taught as an appendage for a short time every week. Edutopia in the United States has a vision of a world in which students and parents, teachers and administrators, policymakers and the people they serve are all empowered with a shared vision to change education for the better. It's a world where young people will be happier and they will achieve more both for themselves and the world at large. Now, if you have an influence, as most of us do if only we choose to exercise it, encourage the schools and universities to look ahead, but to look ahead beyond their own hegemony to a world where the emotional and mental health of young people is not just a priority, but it is the top priority. All else will follow. Howard Gossage, the Socrates of San Francisco, observed that changing the world is the only fit work for a grown man. That's all of us, you and me. We have it in our power, we really do, we really have it in our power to change education in a fundamental way to allow the next generation of Barneys to cope better with the storms of life, to dance rather than drown in the rain. Thank you very much.